never thought my life would be measured in square feet. My basement apartment, cramped and dimly lit, had once been a sanctuary, a place where I could breathe, read, and dream without judgment. Yet, when my sister walked through the door, it instantly became a theater for ridicule. She always had that way of stepping into a room and making it about her. All poised, dripping with confidence, and with an invisible crown that made everyone else feel small. "Wow," she said, pausing at the foot of the narrow stairs. This is your palace." Her voice carried a sharp edge, equal parts amusement and disdain. She didn't even glance around. Her eyes seemed to dance with a silent, cruel verdict. The peeling paint, the low ceiling, the hum of the old furnace, all of it, apparently, was worthy of mockery. I smiled politely, though inside a fire burned. I had worked hard to make this space livable. The little kitchenette might be tiny, but it was mine. The couch might sag, but it was my throne. Every book, every photograph on the wall, every scratch on the floor told a story of struggle and perseverance. Yet to her none of that mattered. "You really live here?" she asked again, voice rising in disbelief. She stepped closer, peering into the corners like a critic judging an unfinished painting. "I mean, don't you want something better? A little sunlight, maybe a view that doesn't make you feel like a mole?" I could feel my jaw tighten, my hands clenching the edge of the counter. Her laughter, light, careless, cutting, echoed through the basement. She had no idea how much effort it had taken me to carve out even this small corner of independence, or how proud I was to manage on my own. But pride wasn't enough to drown out the sting of humiliation, and I swallowed it down, letting my sister's words wash over me like ice water. "And look at this ceiling," she continued, crouching dramatically to inspect the faint water stain above the couch. "I mean, it's charming in a kind of sad, post-apocalyptic way. Did you paint it yourself?" "Yes," I said softly. My voice betrayed no anger, only calm, and it's holding up just fine. She laughed again, louder this time, a musical weapon. "You know, I could never live like this. I like windows. I like space. I like not feeling like I'm in a cave." She ran her fingers over the counter, shaking her head. "Honestly, I don't know how you do it." Her pity stung more than her ridicule. The basement wasn't a cave, it was a choice. It was freedom from her suffocating world of appearances and shallow luxury. Yet she couldn't see that. She could never see it. "I manage," I said, forcing a calmness I didn't feel. I kept my eyes level with hers, refusing to flinch. Inside, though, my mind was racing. Every insult, every laugh, every smirk was being catalogued, stored like fuel for a fire I hadn't yet let burn. I didn't need to respond now. Patience, I reminded myself. She thought this was a game, and games, after all, could be turned. When she finally left, tossing a last patronizing glance over her shoulder, I closed the door and leaned against it. My basement smelled faintly of damp paint and old books, but for the first time that day, it felt like a fortress. Her laughter still echoed in my ears, but underneath it, I felt a strange thrill. She had underestimated me, and one day she would learn exactly how dangerous that could be. The sting of her laughter lingered for days, like a shadow that refused to leave. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smirk, heard her voice dripping with that self-satisfied superiority. And every time, a quiet determination grew within me, not the kind that burned recklessly, but the kind that simmers beneath the surface, patient, precise, and inevitable. I returned to my routine, but with a new edge. Every application I submitted, every client I contacted, every hour I worked at my small freelance business carried the weight of silent revenge. I knew she thought I was weak, that my basement apartment was the sum of my ambition. She didn't realize that I had something she never did: focus, patience, and a willingness to grind quietly while she flaunted what she already had. I began networking more deliberately. I reached out to old colleagues, attended small industry events, and let my reputation grow quietly, like a seed beneath the soil. While my sister spent her time on lavish brunches and designer shopping, I was building bridges, learning insider knowledge, and connecting with people who mattered, people who valued intelligence, creativity, and integrity over flashy wealth. At first, it was subtle. A compliment here, a suggestion there, a project offered because someone trusted me. Not because I demanded it, not because I flaunted anything. I smiled when she called me basement, dweller in passing, though the word burned inside me. Every slight, every condescending laugh was catalogued and stored, not with bitterness, but with strategic clarity. I wasn't just hurt. I was preparing. Months passed, and the difference between us began to widen, though she remained oblivious. She bragged about her penthouse, her expensive dinners, her connections, in circles she believed were inaccessible to me. But she never noticed the subtle shifts beneath the surface. Contracts I was winning, recognition I was earning, opportunities quietly stacking. Her arrogance blinded her to my progress, and I let her ignorance be my ally. I remember one evening in particular. I sat at my tiny kitchen table, the only light coming from the single lamp I had salvaged from a thrift store. A potential client had just emailed, offering a major project. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling I had once feared was too low, and felt a smile curl across my lips. My basement wasn't a cage, it was a launch pad. Every cramped corner, every drafty window, every flickering bulb was a testament to my resilience, to my quiet strength. By the time she called to invite me to a sisterly brunch, I was ready, but not in the way she expected. I accepted with a polite, measured tone, all warmth and civility, masking the storm beneath. She would never suspect that the person she belittled every chance she got was already rising past her, inch by subtle inch, while she remained trapped in her own hubris. I thought about her penthouse as I walked home that night, imagining her smug smile, her sense of invincibility. It made me laugh quietly to myself. One day soon, that confidence would falter. One day soon, she would feel the weight of underestimation, and I would be there not with anger, not with vengeance in its raw form, but with a smile, calm and inevitable, knowing that patience and quiet diligence had finally paid off. For now, I worked, I planned, I waited. She mocked my basement, but little did she know that every brick, every shadow, every moment of solitude had been shaping the weapon of my success. And soon, very soon, the joke would be on her. The morning sunlight glinted off the skyscraper windows as my sister strutted into her penthouse, a bag of designer leather swinging from her arm and a smile so smug, it seemed carved into her face. She believed herself untouchable, untouchable in wealth, untouchable in status, untouchable in the world she had built on vanity and arrogance. She didn't see the cracks beneath the polished surfaces, the fragility hidden behind the opulence. I watched from my apartment, a quiet observer with a cup of coffee in hand and a calm smile I didn't bother hiding. The irony was delicious. She had mocked my basement, derided every inch of the space I called home, and yet here she was, stepping into what she considered untouchable perfection. Only this morning, perfection had a subtle sting waiting for her. When she reached for the key to her penthouse, her fingers fumbled. She frowned, a little wrinkle of confusion crossing her otherwise flawless face. The key, that symbol of her security and privilege, refused to turn. She tried again, harder this time, her expression darkening from confusion to irritation. "What the?" she muttered, jiggling the key. It's not working." I couldn't hear the words directly, but I had followed the small trail of her panic via the text she sent me in a flurry later. "The penthouse doored, I can't get in. Call the building." "Ah, yes." The building. I leaned back in my chair, my lips curling into a slow, deliberate smile. She had always underestimated me, and now the tables were turning so subtly, so elegantly, that she wouldn't even see the hand of fate. Or perhaps my hand in her misfortune. The penthouse wasn't broken, but her access had been legally suspended due to a series of actions she had ignored in her overconfidence, actions I had quietly orchestrated over months. Documents filed, contracts adjusted, accounts monitored, a little nudge here, a gentle push there, the kind of patience that takes intelligence, restraint, and timing. I watched as she called the building manager again and again, growing flustered, flailing against a world she thought she owned. No one came to open the door immediately. Every moment she spent locked out, every frustrated call, every embarrassed glance at the doorman became a testament to the danger of arrogance. Meanwhile, in my basement, I felt an unexpected warmth. I wasn't reveling in cruelty, I was basking in justice. She had mocked me, sneered at the modest life I had carved out, and believed herself inherently superior. Yet here she was, powerless in the face of something she could not manipulate or buy. Her texts to me were frantic, tinged with the faintest hint of desperation. "Can you do something?" "I can't." I didn't reply immediately. I sipped my coffee, enjoying the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the effort, the patience, the intelligence I had cultivated in silence had outpaced her vanity. When I finally did answer, my message was short, sweet, and perfectly measured. Check again. Sometimes patience reveals what arrogance cannot see. I didn't need to say more. The seed had been planted, and I could already imagine her confusion slowly giving way to realization. The same realization that she had underestimated me for years. Today, she was the one outside, fumbling with a key that once symbolized dominance, while I remained inside, calm and victorious. And for the first time, I felt the deep, warming satisfaction of quiet, patient revenge. By mid-morning, the building lobby had become a stage of embarrassment. My sister, once untouchable in her world of wealth and appearances, now stood flustered and disoriented, repeatedly fumbling with her keycard, scanning it, pressing it, cursing it under her breath. The security desk staff watched politely, their professional smiles thin and careful, while she raged quietly, her voice tight with disbelief. I sat in my basement apartment, sipping tea and listening to the faint echoes of her frustration that somehow traveled through the city noise. A small smile played across my lips, not out of cruelty, not from malice, but from a profound sense of justice. Years of condescension, of subtle slights and outright mockery, had culminated in this moment. She had underestimated me, and the universe, or perhaps I, had patiently reminded her that arrogance is fragile. Her first call to me was frantic. "I can't get in. Something's wrong with the key." I remained calm, typing slowly, deliberately, my fingers lingering over the keyboard before I sent my reply. "Check the email your building sent you last week. Sometimes even keys need a reminder." There was a pause filled with the growing tension of her realization. She always thought she could move through the world without consequence, that money and status were shields against failure. Now she was faced with her own hubris. The email she read revealed the truth. A temporary legal freeze on her property due to unpaid taxes she had ignored, notices she had arrogantly dismissed. It was all there, waiting quietly, patiently, for her to finally understand. The penthouse wasn't gone, stolen, or damaged. It simply refused to recognize her as the owner until she respected the rules she had ignored. I didn't need to gloat. I didn't need to yell or shove her mistakes in her face. I simply smiled, quietly and fully, knowing that she was finally confronted with a truth she had chosen to ignore. There was power in patience, in restraint, in quiet intelligence, and finally she felt it. Her next call was more measured, hesitant. I didn't see this coming. I know." I typed back, my words deliberate and gentle. "Sometimes, life teaches lessons that wealth alone can't shield us from." I could almost hear her swallow, the tension in her voice slowly softening into reluctant acknowledgement. For the first time, she was humbled. Her arrogance cracked, replaced by confusion, then by a dawning understanding that I had not been the inferior sister she assumed. My basement apartment, the one she mocked so cruelly, had been the place of patience, resilience, and quiet planning, the true foundation of strength. When she finally regained access to her penthouse, she was changed, subtle but unmistakably. Not entirely humbled, perhaps, but aware that her superiority had been illusory. And I, sitting in the gentle shadows of my modest home, didn't celebrate her discomfort with malice. I simply allowed myself a deep, victorious breath, a smile that carried years of unacknowledged effort and resilience. For the first time, I felt untouchable. Not because of money or status, not because of grandeur, but because I had waited, planned, and quietly built a life that could withstand mockery and emerge stronger. My sister had laughed at my basement apartment. She had dismissed me as insignificant, and now, in a simple, undeniable twist of fate, Her own world had faltered under the weight of her arrogance. And I had only smiled. It wasn't cruelty, it was justice, it was patience, it was sweet, quiet, complete.